Yeah. Aha. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. Can y'all hear us?
Yes.
Good morning. Yes, we can.
Good morning. Yes.
Good
Well,
morning.
thank,
Yes, I can.
thank y'all so much for joining us. We will get started in just a moment. I'm going to set the presenters to be the spotlight for everyone, and then we can get going. And then I believe we have one more speaker who is not yet in. Y'all see Celine? I don't see her yet.
Yeah, I don't see her yet.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot of information to hear from our speakers. Um, Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for the inaugural First Gen Virtual College Celebration. This whole week has been a series of events sponsored by the First Gen Connections Advisory Council at Lamar University, and it has been a wonderful series of events to support and promote and encourage our students who are first generation and their family to go to college. And so this is the final event for the week, and we're so thrilled that y'all have joined us. We have four speakers for this panel session. And I'm going to introduce them and give a quick little intro for who they are and what they do. So first, we have Nicolette Hamilton in the yellow. Hi, Nicolette. Nicolette is a senior here at Lamar University, and she's on track to graduate in spring of 2025. She'll graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in Family Studies. She believes that families, however they are structured, are the most key and fundamental foundation within our lives. And this belief has driven her passion and desire to study how she can strengthen families while preparing to become a marriage and family therapist. Welcome, Nicolette. Thank you for being here.
You are welcome. Happy to be here.
Next, we have Mr. Andre Favors. Hi, Andre. He is an instructor in the Department of Communications and Media at Lamar University. He is first gen and has been involved with the first gen efforts here at Lamar for the past several years. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
And we also have Dr. Margot Gage, who is an associate professor in the sociology department here at Lamar. She has been featured in People Magazine, Washington Post, New York Times Magazine, and ABC News, to name a few of her long COVID advocacy work. Dr. Gage teaches recognizing bias in healthcare, medical cannabis, introduction to sociology, epidemiology, and global health disparities, social psychology, and research methods. So, Dr. Gage, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So for this panel session, the idea is that we want to celebrate your experiences as first generation students, and we also want to give some suggestions and strategies for our current first gen and non-traditional students to help them have success in their academic career. So with that, our first question will go to Mr. Favors. Was your family supportive of your goal to earn a college degree? And then the follow-up is, what supports or barriers did your family offer?
So I grew up in a divorced household. My mother never attended beyond high school and is also an immigrant from Chile. And then my father started school at LSU in Louisiana and then dropped out. And then he decided to go back to school while I was an undergrad to achieve a 2-year degree, an associate's degree in nursing at McNeese State University in Louisiana, in Lake Charles. And so I guess one of the barriers, complications was that my dad was going to school at the same time I was. And so I was kind of having to support him a little bit because he would ask me for help and guidance as he was going through school, because I was actually like further along in my undergrad career when he was going. And then during my undergrad career, my father passed away. And so that was a struggle. My family was supportive, particularly my father's side. And there were definitely barriers. Where I found support was once I got to university and realized where I wanted to kind of finish my degree, was helpful, and finding peers, but also some faculty and my partner to help me get through my undergrad career. But my paternal side of the family was supportive, but also kind of complicated because of the first gen status, but also going to school while I was. But yes, but I was happy to find the support and have some family support while I was working on my undergrad degree.
Wow, what an interesting experience to have your dad in college at the same time. Wow. Nicolette, what can you share with us about your family supporting you?
My family is they didn't have a higher education at all. None of my immediate family, my aunts and my uncles. And so they always worked really hard to establish their own financial structure before they incorporated any education. And so, although they were supporting me going to school, they could see that you could be successful without advanced education. Didn't necessarily mean that they were very happy with what they were doing. And so I actually followed my mother's footsteps and went into the finance world for a little bit. And then I realized this is not my passion really, or my pathway. And I had to kind of redirect myself with encouragement from them. But I mean, financial, I've been independent my entire life. It's not something that they were able to really help me with. And so I had to make a way for myself, find resources, utilize different ways of networking. And it took me a while. It took me a while. I started school, I went into my generals, and I was like, you know what? I'm already successful in my career. I don't know if I want to continue this. It's going to take me 5, 6 years to get to where I want to be. So I took a pause for a minute, and then I just realized, like, no, I'm not really serving what my talents and skills are just for convenience. And so when I told them I was going back to school, they were excited, and they're like, I can see you doing exactly what you're doing. You do that for our family already anyway, studying families, concentrating on families, improving families. And so it was great to have the support, just as emotional support. And they're always in my corner. They ask me how I'm doing. They ask how school's going. They're proud of me. And so it's nice to have that kind of picture perfect positivity with it.
It sounds like it was a journey for them as well, having to a place to be able to support you how they are now.
It was, and my mom has expressed guilt several times not encouraging education, and I have to get her to lay that to rest a little bit, because I needed the experiences I gained even to this point to help me be successful in school right now, because we are very technology driven, being non-traditional students. I mean, I live on the computer, and if I didn't have that skill set coming into an online program, it would be that much more challenging for me to do.
Yeah. Dr. Gage, what can you tell us about your family and the type of support they may have provided?
So in my family, it wasn't a question on whether or not I was going to college. It was like, you're going, and where are you going? And that's how it was just growing up. So I knew I was going to college. Education was a big thing in my family. My father was extremely supportive. He would stay up with me sometimes until 2, 3 in the morning, finishing a project to make sure I was doing well. So like my father was really my rock throughout my childhood, and he was just really, really big on education. My father passed away while I was in college. But I remember when I got my acceptance letter to CU Boulder, the first thing I did was go to him and like thank him for the help that he gave me to get there, because without him, I wouldn't have got into CU Boulder for sure. Um, my father was in college before I was born. But after his first year, when he went to his parents to ask them to pay for his school fees, his parents said, no, go join the military because we're not paying. So that's derailed my father's college career. And then he entered into the Air Force. and he went and did that. And it wasn't until way later on that he went back for engineering, but I was already older. My mother actually started at Lamar University, so it's kind of really cool that she was at Lamar, and then she got pregnant with me. So I was at Lamar as a baby, and then she had me during spring break. But she had me in Austin, where my dad is from. And so I was born in Austin. And she came back to Lamar, but left me in Austin with my father and my grandmother. And it was just too much. I can imagine for a new mom to just be so far away from her baby. So eventually she wound up dropping out of Lamar and going to Austin to be with her new family. And she didn't start back again in college until I was like, I think in my late 20s, 30s. I was already in graduate school. And then she finally completed her degree, her 4-year degree, when I was in my 30s. And so education was important to her as well. She always says to the young women now coming up, the new generation, if I had all the programs that you guys have when I was younger, I would have been unstoppable. So what are you doing? Why are you not taking advantage? Because she knows a world where those opportunities weren't available to her. So she is very big on education. And if education can't get you there, then join the military.
Wow, it sounds like several of y'all have been kind of the trendsetters in your family and helping to inspire other people, which is really pretty neat. Thank y'all for sharing those stories. My next question is, let's see, let's go with Dr. Gage first. As an undergrad student, did you always know what degree you wanted to earn? If not, um, how many times did you change your major? And then did that influence your experience, your overall experience in school?
Okay, so as a student with going to school on student loans, on a Pell Grant, and with some scholarships, I didn't have the luxury to change my major, and I didn't have the luxury to major in art or something like that. So I knew very early on, actually in high school, that I wanted to go to school and study psychology. Initially, I wanted to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. My father said, if you're going to do this, then you need to go all the way and he would say, get your brass ring. And so I knew in high school already that I was going to study psychology. That was going to be my major. And I knew that I wanted to go all the way to get my PhD. It was during my senior year where I had this thought where I was like, you know what? Maybe I should be a dentist. So that did come into my mind. Like it's like, well, I'm good with all the science and stuff. Maybe I should just go ahead and just do that. And then I went to my advisor and saw how much rework that I would have to do and how much it would hold me back. So I was like, okay, we're not gonna do that. We need to get out of here and get going. So that changed my plans too. So I had that very slight shift. But pretty much my entire path was planned and it was set, and I knew I was going to reach it.
Wow, I'm impressed. Let's go with Nicolette next.
So I served my professional career life in the finance world. Like I said earlier, I started off in just as an AP AR clerk, and then I worked my way all the way up to an associate accountant. And during my time as an associate accountant, I started going back to school after my generals were completed, even though my interest has always been in psychology. I took one class in accounting, and even though it was my life, I was not connected to it. I had a lot of support from my boss. They were willing to pay for the school program and everything, and I had to go and sit with him and say, I love what I do, but I love talking to people more, and I love working out solutions with what they need. Like I would have several conversations with employees on acquisitions. Like we would buy companies, we were bought a couple times, and that change is hard. And so I loved having those conversations of how can we adapt to this change. We have worries, we have fears, and I realized that I connected more to human beings than to numbers. And so I shifted I just told my husband, I can't work and go to school because I'm going to be tempted to stay where I'm at because it's financially supportive. I don't really need to change it. And so I went back to school full time. I manage my own small business on the side that works with people still. So I still get the business aspect of it, but not enough temptation to get back into the business world. And it's been challenging. Like it's hard to live in your passion and not, feel financially secure. So I use the resources available to me for financial aid. I've actually never applied for a scholarship. I've not been through that process. I've been questioned as to why. My answer back to that is I think that there are more people out there that would need that above me. And that's just my own, I don't know, not self insecurity, but willingness to sacrifice to let somebody else have an opportunity. But as soon as I stepped into Lamar University, I transferred here a year ago and got into the family studies program. It's like my core settled in, like my passion was being met, my life purpose is being fulfilled. And as hard as it's been to sacrifice to be an independent student, to do it by myself, my own support, and I had the support of my husband as well now, but it's worth the sacrifice and worth the risk. And I'm glad to be doing what I'm doing finally.
We're glad you're doing what you're doing too. So, Mr. Favors, what can you tell us about your major in your undergrad program?
So when I was growing up, I wanted to be an architect, and then in high school, I was an athletic trainer for several of the athletic teams, and so I thought I wanted to do that. Once I got to university at UL Lafayette, I decided to major in public relations and communication. I can't quite remember why I chose that exact thing. But I do know that my family was supportive and thought that that would be a good fit. Then when I met with my advisor, they were like, "We really do recommend that you do a minor in business." And I was like, "Nope, nope, not nope," because I did not know what that I wanted to be. I knew enough that I did not want to be in a cubicle. I did not want to be anything like that. At least that was my envision. So I changed my major once. I changed it from public relations and communication to what at the time they called interpersonal and organizational communication, kind of more of a general human communication, learning more how to interact with people and learning the theories and approaches to studying that kind of thing. And I stuck with that as long as I did a stint at McNeese, and then I realized that wasn't working out. So I came back to UL and finished my bachelor's and then pursued my master's. I didn't know I wanted to go into higher ed until kind of a little later on. And then my career path has kind of been interesting and a little bit nonlinear. But in undergrad, it was just the one change, and it wasn't a big change. But it was kind of like, we really want you to do this. And I was like, that's not me. I ended up minoring in film studies. And so that was kind of a cool interdisciplinary thing that tied into my interests. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of major change, but I did kind of have a sharp reaction when they're like, we want you to go into business. And I was like, no. So, but I've been happy with my choices, and my family supported my choices too.
Thank you for sharing those stories with us. Before I ask the next question, I want to invite the guests that are joining us today to ask any questions that you may have. You can post it in the chat or in the Q&A box. Either one should work, and I will ask those to our presenters as they appear. So the next question is, let's see, we'll go with Nicolette first. What gaps have existed in your feelings of support for your academic journey, and then who or what has helped to fill those gaps?
That's a good question. um, the gaps that I saw was transitioning into education after a 10-year separation of it. So, and a lot changed in a decade with school because I returned back to school after COVID. And so, although it was great to be able to have an online system, to be able to be flexible and have balance with the things I need to do in my own life, understanding that like you're really teaching yourself a lot. You have a lot of interaction with professors and the materials there, but I do miss that course student camaraderie, the bounce back in class. You have these discussions that go back and forth. So that's been the biggest, would say like learning gap and experience gap, is having to settle into the little technological online aspect of education right now. And the second part of your question, I'm sorry, I just went into that one.
Who or what helped fill those gaps?
So I am going to toot Lamar University's horn just a little bit. First for Dr. White. She has taught me a lot and helped me to enhance skills I already had, and things I didn't think I would even use with courses. And the university, me having a direct advisor that has helped me to stay on course of my courses. Like there are several times like, I will pick this course or that course, she's like, that doesn't really fall in line with your degree. Like, even though you're interested in child literature and that can be an elective course for you, let's shift you back over to psychology, sociology, or social work. And I'm grateful for that. I'm because my interest, squirreled me a little bit. And so having that academic support helped bridge the gaps of, not really knowing how to navigate this path.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful feedback. Dr. Gage, how about you? What were some of the gaps? Sure.
Okay.
What were some of the gaps that you may have experienced on your academic journey, and then who or what helped fill those gaps?
Okay. I think that first gen students, usually we're not coming out of the most economically rich situations. And so we carry that with us, and and that guilt, and that feeling of needing to overcompensate, and of all the people, back at home, like if you're away at college, or the people who didn't come with you to college. And I would say that one of the best advice, that I got was happened to be from a couple of different professors back then. One of them was a white male professor, my biology professor, and he said to me, you've taken care of enough, people, and now it's time for you to think about yourself and go for it. So that means that you're going to have to leave some people behind. You're going to have to take that decision to do that, if you want to excel. And that was a hard decision, to make, because then you think, well, I made it out, and then these other people didn't. But that's a choice a conscious choice that you have to make, and that was advised to me, and I did that. Then you have some people, like, think about that famous NFL player, Aaron Hernandez, who he couldn't let his past go. He took all of that with him into the NFL where he was living. He didn't decide to go to some team outside of his hometown, and he winds up getting into all this trouble. And he's on the line, for violent crime. And you can Google to see what happened to Aaron Hernandez, but that's an example of not being able to cut ties and letting go of what doesn't serve you. So I think that that's one of the biggest gap, is that maybe we don't get that lecture all the time, because we might be getting guilt from the people back home, where you're supposed to do this, or now you're behaving like this because you have a little bit of education on your back. Now you're because you're thinking a little bit differently, so then it's not acceptable, and you have to learn how to a lot of times on your own you know, how to be true to who you are, knowing that you're in a good place and letting that noise go. You got to learn how to quiet that inner critic. And I think that people who are not first gen, so for example, my daughters who have like an educator in the house, and I saw that with one of my students the other day, when I was doing a Zoom call with her. Her mother was there on the line, and her mother's a teacher, so her mother was telling her, look, you need to ask your prof this. We don't get that, unfortunately. We don't have, you know, somebody who's already been through the ringer and can tell us XYZ, this is what you need to do. Go talk to your professors. Don't let it be on the last day of the semester. We don't get that. And so I didn't get that either. And then I think you need to just be careful over, you need to be discerning over the advice that you're getting, because I've had other advice, for example, from a Black male professor when I was in college, when I told him, hey, you know, I'm going to go do my graduate studies abroad. And he said to me, why do you need to go all the way, you know, abroad to get us, you know, to become a psychiatrist? Like, you can stay home and do that. And that was really limiting, because going abroad changed my life. It's a life-changing experience that I recommend all students, and especially first-gen students, to do.
I think that your experience is a great reminder for faculty, all faculty, that the words that we use with our students is so important, and we can use our superpowers for good or for evil, right? And I think that that's something that we definitely should continue promoting to faculty, to use your words to empower other people, empower our students for good. So thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Gage, for sharing that. Mr. Favors, what can you tell us about um, gaps that you found in your academic journey, and then who or what helped fill those gaps?
So to kind of piggyback on Dr. Gage a little bit, one of the things is that I had a work family since I was 16. And then I moved off to college, and that employer helped me get a job in my new town. It wasn't that far. Lafayette and Lake Charles are fairly close. But I ended up realizing that I worked there for a year, and then what really kind of helped me was being able to go back to the work family on the weekend, since it wasn't that bad a commute, and make some money. And then they were real supportive, because they were like, you know, we've worked in the food industry. We want you to continue your degree. We want you to finish. We want you to do well. So I was able to kind of reconnect back with the some of the support that I've had for a long time. And it was hard to finally say goodbye to them once I got into grad school. But it was kind of neat that I was close enough to be able to find that support. And they were all very encouraging. And we're like, you know, look, you're making $10 an hour here. We want you to, you're going to school. We want you to do well. We're happy to support you when you can come in and work. And I found that real helpful. I had it after my dad's death. I took a year off. And so getting back into school after that, my partner helped me like take care of FAFSA, getting back into all of that. And really just sitting me down and saying, you know, you need to go back. You need to finish. You're too close. UL is supportive. You know the people there. You know, we want you back. Let's get you going. And that was really good. And then my last year, I did really well to finish up and graduate and enroll into my graduate program. Some of the advice I got in that last year was to really do well academically, and to start kind of, since I was seriously thinking about grad school, I participated in a conference. It was a statewide conference that was held at the campus. So I was encouraged to do that. And so just listening to that advice, and then finding that mix of like what you're saying, Dr. Gage, that balance of finding the support from your past, but then realizing when it's time to kind of let go, if that's what's right for you. But finding new people to help build your support system. I was an only child, and then, like I said, my family circle was kind of small, and so I found like other. The other thing for me was I'm LGBTQ, so finding people at UL, peers who are part of my group, to kind of find support there too, was important. So I think it's finding as many support networks as you can where you can, because for first gen folks, sometimes we don't have a lot of that kind of support. And then, like Dr. Gage said, finding when it's not working anymore, or you might need a piece away a little bit, then finding the right places to do that too.
Thank you, everyone, for your responses. We do have a question from a participant. The question is, if you could give one piece of advice to your past self before starting college through graduation, what would it be and why? Who would like to start?
I can go. I was thinking about that as I read it, and I was like, what would I tell myself? And I'm like, self, just do the hardest thing first. And that's something that has helped me a lot. It's easy to procrastinate, especially when you have a lot of tasks. No one's gonna do it for you. And so I start at the mountaintop and I slide my way down. And so that's really helped me to manage my level of stress, because that's high. You're trying to live your life, you're trying to take care of your family, and you're trying to take care of yourself and your education and your future. And everything's new. Everything's new. And so reducing your stress. There's a book called Eat the Frog, which talks about procrastination. Do the thing you want to procrastinate the most first. Then it's done. You don't have to worry about it. And then you just move on to the things that you enjoy more and more as the list goes on. And that is what I would say to somebody. Eat the frog.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Favors or Dr. Gage, would one of y'all like to go next?
I can go ahead. Yeah. So I think for me, it was resist just going into yourself when you're struggling. Like, talk to people. I realized kind of after the fact that people wanted me to do well. The faculty were there to support me if I would have just reached out and talked to them when I was struggling. So I think it's like, develop a thicker skin, always communicate when you're struggling, and as soon as you're struggling, communicate to the people that can help you. I wish I would have done more of that when I was an undergrad and going through stuff, but I think those are the kind of things I would tell myself if I were to kind of go back.
Okay, so that was a really good question. It made me think a lot. If I could tell my old self growing, like what would I tell my old self growing up? I would a lot of the things I did, but I guess one of the biggest things I would say is do your shadow work. Um, go really in and do your self-help work, because everybody has family dysfunction. There's not one of us, even perfect families have dysfunction. The fact that they have to operate as a perfectionist family and the stress that puts on you. So I would definitely say go back and really do that work. There's a plethora of like self-help gurus and people and things on the internet now these days, which unfortunately there was no YouTube and like the World University at your fingertips when I was a kid, young. So you guys have that advantage that I didn't have. So don't sit there and not do the hard work on yourself from what happened to you. So go get that done. The earlier the better, I would say. So I wish I would have known that earlier. Be mindful of who you hang out with. Because you are, only, they say, there's some saying you're as good as your 5 friends. So if all 5 of your friends are losers, you're probably a loser too. So, I mean, I mean that in the nicest of way. I mean, like, be with people who are lifting you up, not trying to pull you down, and be mindful of that. And be mindful of who you decide to spend the rest of your life with, because that is also an economic factor in your life, and so I would be really mindful for that, because who you marry, especially for women, marriage is one of the easiest ways to level up in life. I think a lot of young women, especially first-gen women, aren't told that. And when I got to college, there were girls who went to certain parties because, oh, that's the engineering party, that's the physics, they're going to be doctors. Nobody told me that growing up, but apparently there are a number of women who go to college not for education, but to find their husbands, and nobody told me that. I was behind the gun on that one. So I would say, be mindful of that as well. And I always tell my intro students when it was a face-to-face class and I could go back and forth, one of the first things is you don't, make friends with the person you're sitting next to, make friends in college, because you don't know if that next person is going to be able to get you a job later. So start working on your network now, and not like running behind the gun, because a lot of times we're too afraid to ask for help, or, too afraid to to even reach out because we're feeling insecure. So I would say, put yourself out there, even if it's hard. I'm normally an introvert. I'm an introvert that has learned to be an extrovert because being an introvert doesn't serve me. So make those connections and those friendships while you're young, because they'll be stronger when you need them on your job search later.
Great responses, everyone. We have some comments that are popping up that some of our participants today are non-traditional in age, so they're older than most kind of normal students. So my next question would be first to Nicolette. What are some of the specific challenges you think you faced because of being a first-gen non-traditional student? And then for Dr. Gage and Mr. Favors, I'm going to follow that up with how can faculty help meet those needs? So let's start with Nicolette.
So I love seeing the ages in here. I am 42 also, and I am a senior in my undergrad. I had a lot of guilt that came with that in the beginning. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I waste my time? And I had to just tell myself, shift your focus. You're doing it now, and you're going to do the work that you want to do. You're going to help the people that you want to help. And I think if you get stuck in your past, like Dr. Gage was saying and Mr. Favors was saying, that doesn't serve you. That's a great line. So focusing on what your challenges were, but that no longer are going to fuel you for your future. Let it go. Give yourself some grace, and accept where you're at, because that's where you're at. You can't change that, right? So keep going, keep moving, and you're going to make it through it. I can't believe I'm graduating in spring. It doesn't feel real. I feel like I should have another year or two. I am going to pursue my master's after this at Lamar University. So I am a train that can't be stopped right now, because I have found the momentum, and I have found that it's worth to keep going no matter what I didn't do, what I haven't done, where I'm not. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is where I'm going tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Nicolette. Dr. Gage and Mr. Favors, who would like to go next?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Sure. The question is for students who are first-gen students, but also non-traditional, what are some strategies that faculty can use to help meet their needs, to support them?
Well, one of the things that I do, I wasn't a non-traditional student, so I don't know what that feels like, but I can imagine that it is really difficult, because you're having to juggle all kinds of things, especially if you have children. And I was a student who worked during school, so I don't know if that makes me non-traditional or not. But anyways, what I do for my students is I try to make myself available in hours that normally I wouldn't have to. So if my student is telling me, hey, can you meet me at 6 o'clock? I really try to do that. I don't like to meet on a Sunday, but if that student can only meet and talk with me on a Sunday, I do make space for that student. So I think faculty need to be flexible and mindful with the fact that students are juggling a lot of things. So we need to pretzel ourselves around that. And also faculty need to not be offended with things. I had a student who felt comfortable to breastfeed right in front of me on Zoom the other day. And I was like, okay, But then I was thinking to myself, yeah, her baby needs to eat and she's got to get this done with me. So we're multitasking. That's okay. And I also, and the fact that she felt comfortable enough to do that, that's amazing as well. Thinking about it. And one thing that I would also recommend faculty to do is when that student comes to you and is looking for advice, to treat them like family and not just a number, not just number whatever, L number whatever of this year, but really try to get a quick whole idea of that person, a little bit of background, and so that you can advise them in the best way possible. Just like you would do your own child, or if you don't have children, like your own niece or nephew or something like that. I really try to treat students who come into my office needing help. I try to give them that personal dialogue, that personal dynamic. Still remaining professional, but I mean, I don't, I'm not, I was a student not that long ago, so I try to be like a down to earth kind of professor, not a stuffy one.
Thank you. Mr. Favors.
So one of the things I do is I always say it's never too late. Sometimes will tell a story. My dad, who came back to school, and while his son was in school, and realized he wanted to better himself and better his family. And so it's never too late to come back to complete. Especially at Lamar with the online options and all these things. You can do it. The other thing that I've been doing, kind of like what Dr. Gage is saying. I mean, I normally meet at night, and that I don't do 8 to 11. You got me on the day early. But I'm real flexible if you need me whenever. I've also opened up if it needs to be a Zoom meeting, if it needs to be even like if I'm working on a research project, if it needs to be phone, if it needs to be Facebook message. I just want to be, if I'm working with you heavily, I want to work with you. Something that I've been proud of is, sometimes I think we think because of all the juggling that some opportunities may be more difficult for first gen non-traditional students. But I've always told my students, look, McNair is an option. Doing undergrad research is an option. There are opportunities for you participating in the undergraduate research opportunities and grants. Yes, you're juggling a lot, but I will work with you. I will meet when we need to meet, and those programs are pretty open and welcome to non-traditional students if you are interested in those. Yay, Evie, that's wonderful. So I have kind of shifted in that. Yes, I know non-traditional students are juggling a lot, but I still want to present all the potential opportunities that may fit them, and not assume that because of the juggling there are opportunities that you just can't do. So I think presenting those opportunities and remembering that our non-traditional first gen are really talented folks, and we have to be resilient. And that juggling gives you power in how to manage and compartmentalize and do like things like research that can be useful. So that's you can do it. There are many opportunities on campus for first gen non-traditional students. So at least consider them where it makes sense.
Great. We have another question from Daniel, and so I'm just going to read it and then someone can jump in. What do you think the future holds for the job professional market? Does experience weigh more than the degree, or does the degree weigh as equal to experience? So far, the current social argument is that college is proof showing to an employer or organization that you can show up on time, hopefully, and apply yourself. However, the amount of debt and cost that incurs on people is a questionable value. So, who would like to respond to that?
I can I can respond on that. In America, the college degree is currency, period. And especially if you are a woman, minority, you need your college degree. And that's just how it is. It sucks, but that's just how it is. And until things change, you need it. As far as the cost involved, you got the new students, you guys coming in now, this new generation, you guys are really worried about cost. Back in my generation, we didn't care. We were just like, student loans, we'll figure it out later. So that's why our student loan debt is astronomical. So when people are saying, I don't want to take out a student loan, I'm like, what? Like, that's what they're there for, you know? So I have a different mentality about that, and that's a generation thing. But I do respect that you guys are really thinking about cost, which is great. So what I do advise my students, and one of the fabulous things about Lamar University is we have these 8-week online courses, and you can really pack your schedule to get in and get out in a really quick amount of time. I've known students that as soon as they get in there, they pack it and they finish their degree under 4 years. So that's a possibility with Lamar. That's one of the great things about our university.
Would anyone else like to jump in? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I'd actually like to share my experience based off of that because I had the same question as well. I was in a very comfortable financial situation. Why would going back to 4 years to pay 40 to 50 grand in college minimum give me the same pay? My husband had the same question. It is not what you think it's going to be. And what we decided is that yes, we're going to have 40, $50,000 in student loan debts, which is in full transparency what I have for myself and my degree, but I'm going to be doubling my income. And that is year after year after year. So when you go and get your education, you should not be staying in the same financial threshold. You've improved yourself, your skills, and definitely more marketable, not only to your employer, but to other employers. And so, yes, you're going to get debt, but if you can double your income, even 25%, you're going to be ahead financially in the end. And that has been our experience. It at first looked very scary, and sometimes it is scary, but it was the best decision. And I am kind of like crossover of generation of looking at the costs and utilizing the finances available. But it is the degree. I exactly would echo what Dr. Gage said is currency, and it is going to amplify your life for the small amount of costs that you're going to need for it.
I don't have much more to add, but I will say I think part of it is taking advantage of the opportunities on campus to get money, whether it's scholarships, whether it's McNair, which I saw some people were applying for that, which is awesome, or the OUR opportunities, which do give you some stipends and things. I think I think trying to think about how you can take advantage of the opportunities that do have some financial reward and enhance your opportunities for career or graduate school enhancement, I think are important. But I'm also of the Dr. Gage where we didn't care. We were like, student loans, we'll just figure it out later. I'm of that generation. But I mean, I'm happy to know people are thinking about that. I'm also in a discipline that has pretty good connection with getting people into jobs that are decently paying, particularly in PR and advertising and that kind of stuff. So like I think some of it is thinking through. I was also of the like, oh, any degree will do, and liberal arts is the way. And I'm still of that mindset that I think our degrees should prepare you to be nimble. And like when COVID happens, you can pivot. And our degrees should help you do that. And a lot of our students end up in things that aren't what their degrees were. I mean, but they got the skills and had the opportunities to translate. I started on TV news and now or a journalist, and now I'm doing PR for ExxonMobil, making a lot more money. And you may not have started there, but the degree and the skills and the opportunities you got while you were at school helped you to kind of navigate the workplace and get those higher paying positions while you're here.
And I just want to say, like, we're here to promote, a college degree and everything, but like what Nicolette was saying, um, let's not forget that you don't have to go to college to get a good job. I mean, we have, you can become a plumber, you can become an electrician, and those professions are valid too. And they make good money. Those working class guys, they can make good money. Some of them make more than college professors. So, and they did that without a degree. So although I'm 100% advocating you go to get your degree at Lamar, university. I'm just saying it's not the only option if for some reason, it just doesn't work out for you. And the other thing that I would definitely say is get yourself an internship where you want to work before you get out of here. That's going to definitely help you in the long run.
So we're winding down on our time. We have one more question from the group, and then I have one final question. So Evie asked, can you describe a moment or experience at college that you are most proud of? So let's go with Dr. Gage first.
Besides graduating, that was amazing. And then graduating with my PhD, because I graduated with my PhD that in Amsterdam, and that's a whole different kind of way of graduating. You have to really defend it, and it's very traditional, and the professors are wearing robes, and it's in a historic building. So very emotional time, you can imagine. So I would say definitely graduation. But then just for a fun thing, I was a college cheerleader for a Big 12 university. So I mean, we were flying on private jets and had sponsorship from Nike. So that was amazing to be able to experience that type of camaraderie in college. So I'm definitely like pro student organizations, like as much as possible. I think that really enhances your college experience.
Great. Mr. Favors?
For me, it was presenting at a conference as an undergrad. I was able to present about 9/11 truthism and kind of how that logic is problematic and thinking about this idea of scientism. But to me, being an undergrad and having an opportunity to present your research from a class that you did, I think was a really proud moment for me. And then it was kind of nerve wracking. I'm pretty good at speaking and that kind of thing, but just the experience. And then I still remember like the odd question asked, and it kind of like, if you've been at academic conferences, there's always the like, why that's not a question or that's your own thing or whatever. But I think, kind of experiencing that now later that I'm doing that all the time, I think was a really neat thing I was able to do while I was an undergrad.
Oh, thank you, Nicolette.
So I have this here. Because I'm very proud of it. I'm going to show you. This is just my associate's degree. I have it framed on my desk. Um, I am one of the first in my family to get it, and it keeps me going every day. Like to me, that was really hard to do. I had to change a lot of things to get it, and it's only a 2-year degree. I shouldn't say it's only a 2-year degree. That was it took me 10 years to get it. So my bachelor's is going to take me less than that. Obviously, I'll be graduating soon, but I'm so proud of it. And one thing else I will say is being invited to start a new student organization, the Cardinal Council on Family Relations. It's been very intimidating and scary and all the hard things, but it has been so wonderful. And I'm so grateful that Dr. White had that, desire to do it. And the invitation was extended to me, and that she still allows me to serve in that position. But being able to be an advocate for non-traditional students online in the family studies program at Lamar University, to go through it imperfectly. It's a brand new organization. We're making mistakes, or at least I am, left and right, is what I feel. But I'm learning from them, and if I don't learn from them, then it's not serving any purpose. But I'm very proud of those two things right now, and that's what just keeps me wanting to continue to go and stay with Lamar University. The opportunities, even as a non-traditional student and a first generational student, I still get to experience the things that I didn't think I would, being in the position I'm in.
Thank you, Nicolette. Dr. Gage.
I win already.
Oh,
I went first.
I'm so sorry. Okay, Then, before I ask the final question, I wanted to just mention that Nicolette just spoke about the Cardinal Council on Family Relations, and they were actually really important in the creation of this event today. Earlier this fall, we held a focus group through the Cardinal Council with students who are non-traditional to find out what are their needs, what kind of support would you like, and the idea for an online panel session was one of the ideas that came out of that. And so I'm really proud of Nicolette and all of the members for sharing their insight so that we could have this event and offer it to others on the campus. So thank y'all. Um, so final question is, what is your superpower? Let's start with Dr. Gage.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one, and I would say my superpower is perseverance. I'm not somebody who just takes the word no lightly. And I think for first gens, a lot of times when they hear no, they think that word means no, but maybe no means like not yet or not right now or do it a little bit differently. So ask. And sometimes we're afraid to ask, whereas someone who's not first gen won't do that. Um, and never giving up is being a fighter. Those are all um, those would be my top like superpowers. I mean, if you think about where I was in 2020 to where I am now, like I almost died of COVID, and I'm doing everything the best that I can to design my life so that I can still be here. I didn't give up, and it would have been really easy and understandable for me to do that. So, being here and, sharing with you guys my experience, strength, and hope is something that I love to do. So I would think that those things as a whole constitute what my superpower is.
Thank you. Mr. Favors.
I think mine is networking. I'm kind of voracious for information as I'm in the knowledge industry. And I think one of the good things that I've developed is being able to connect people for opportunities. Even though it may not be me, I'll be like, you should talk to Dr. Gage about that. Or connecting, students to where they need to go in terms of referring and that kind of thing. I think as first gen folks, we want the information. We need to be able to get the information. We get good at asking questions because we often have to ask questions. And I think part of that is realizing that we want to seek opportunities where we can. And part of that is being able to connect people that makes sense, even if it's not for our own benefit. And so I would say that would be kind of my superpower.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Nicolette, what is your superpower?
Um, when I thought about that question, the first thing that came to me is love. I just love people, and I'm very compassionate, and so I want to help any way, anywhere I can. And I see a question here. Can we contact y'all later? Yes, you can contact me. Um, and I'll let Dr. Gage and Mr. Favor speak for themselves on that, but I could assume that they would also be willing for that. But adaptability has really been my main superpower right now because there's been such a shift in transition. And I know that we all have a deep connection to COVID. There's things that have happened with our families and our personal life. And my husband lost his job and we were literally homeless. And without our family, we would not had a place to stay or live. And we had to struggle like that for 2 years. And that is also what really influenced our importance of education. My husband graduated with his bachelor's last year. And so that has really helped us to get back on our feet just this year, just to be where we're at today. And adaptability. Like if you have to be flexible, you have to be willing to change, because it's ever changing. So, and your life will change after you get your education or your skill set or whatever it is.
Excellent responses from everyone. That concludes the panel session for today. I thank the panelists for joining us, and I thank all of the participants for taking time out of your Saturday morning to come be with us. I think this was a really great, inspiring time together, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. So thank you all, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Janelle,
Yes.
before we go, what about the door prizes?
Oh, that is a great thing to ask. There actually were 20 participants who were not faculty and staff. So I will send you the list of addresses that they used to register, and we can send a door prize to each one of them.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.